guys are going to break down that awesome match.
Thank you very much, Joe, and what an incredible start to the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship here. That game had everything. Fnatic had the makings of a comeback, but they just gave up too much too early. Before we talk about some of the gameplay decisions, let's chat a little bit about those picks and bans. Yasuo first pick, blind, completely surprising me at the very least, on the side of IG. We've seen Cassidy being locked in, and we talked about how IG could maybe bait Fnatic in. Crepo, what was your thoughts on picks and bans?
Obviously, Cassidy was left open with a plan. Then again, he still got very much last pick, so Fnatic was confident they could win with it. I think their plan relied a lot on having the 2v2 on bottom and then just let Caspian teleport down and just make picks and then put pressure around the map. However, the mid lane matchup is not really advantageous for Cassian, as we saw.
Yeah, I completely agree. Basically, after the Cassidy nerfs, there's no way for even to lane against Yasuo, and you saw it with the first blood.
Yeah, it worked in his favor. Before we get to the replay, let's talk a little bit about those lane swaps that actually maybe set themselves up. Fnatic, they started that lane swap off. Crepo, is that a good thing for them to do or a not so good thing?
Well, IG started it off, actually.
IG.
Yeah. There's a lot of aspects to a lane swap. Why it's good, why it's bad. I just want to cover a lot of them. First of all, it puts the Shyvana went bottom, really tanky. The Lulu top doesn't really deal with the lane swap too well, and especially on top of that, Soaz, he glitter lands the first wave twice, or once or twice at least, which made him push. Which basically IG said, well, okay, let's farm up for a couple of levels, get level 3 or 4, and then we'll poke you, and then we'll dive you. And as you saw, Soaz was completely out of the game. Same time on bottom, the jungler showed up on bottom and just helped them prevent Fnatic from pushing in the tower. And at the same time, the Vayne Thresh matchup, which is really bad against Illusion, just didn't happen, and then this all played into IG's favor.
Yeah, and for the mid lane, whenever you lane swap like that, you know the jungler is not gonna be around. You already have a disadvantaged lane matchup with Cassidy, and he actually started Flask on top of that. So he can't walk up to Yasuo because he will get hit, Yasuo will E onto him, and Yasuo will keep hitting him. So if he actually walks up, he will keep getting hit.
Well, we've got a replay of one of those first trades. Let's pull that replay up onto your screen. Takes place at about 3 minutes, 37 seconds on the clock. And Peke basically just got shut down. So Froggen, the replay's on your screen. Talk me through what happens.
Okay, so what happens is Pekka's walking up to hit a CS, and he got crit by Yasuo's Q. So Yasuo wants to dive him at this point, and despite Yasuo missing his Q, he actually crits Pekka twice and gets the first blood.
Yeah.
And one thing is Sisai, he could either have went for actually go back, all the minions were dead, he couldn't contest them if Pekka just has stood back and farm under his turret, but he went for the dive. What he could have done was also just go back to the Wolves and Raves, get a nice CS lead, get the static shift really, really fast, but the dive, like Chinese teams, they want to go for the dives every single time as possible.
It worked in their favor, he got the kill.
In Pekka's favor, he got crit twice.
RNG.
Well, yeah, pay to RNGs, but that can happen when you play the Yasuo Cassidy matchup. And the thing is, Z-Tai would never go this aggressive. Oh, well, he might, he's Chinese, but he probably wouldn't go as aggressive if he didn't know where the junglers was going to be. And as Froggen pointed out already, they're going to be either mid or top defending those 2v1s. So from a conceptual point of view, I really like what IG accomplished with that lane swap, and I almost feel like Fnatic dropped the ball not predicting that lane swap.
So let's talk a little bit. We do have another replay to set up, so if you can fast forward over there, Crepo. The rest of the game played out a little bit more maybe in Fnatic's favor as far as objectives were concerned. They got the first tower in the bottom lane, they got the first dragon, and they had the makings of a very good team fight, which we're just busy getting set up. What did Fnatic need to do other than giving up those kills early? I mean, was it a strong start to the game with all those objectives, Froggen?
I think actually starting from champion selection, I think the Cassidy pick was really bad because basically what IG has, Shyvana, she likes to split push, she likes to farm up, get really, really strong. Wayne likes to get really, really strong, likes to split push as well. And then you have Yasuo, he likes to split push as well. Despite of that, they have a lot of knockouts on IG's team, so they don't have to. But it's 3 split push champions, so if they had went something more pokey, maybe even take the Lulu mids and then pick Karma top or something for Soaz, they would be able to hold them off. And despite IG having a lot of damage, I think they would have too many defensive stats to actually get through. So Fnatic would win every single team fight, and IG would be forced into split pushing.
Well, I can only echo that. I really just want to point out the fact that I really think Fnatic banked on Cassidy teleporting down the bottom, winning that matchup even more, getting red kills really fed, and then just let Soaz do his thing in the top lane with top lane Lulu, which cleans waves so well against the Shyvana. It would basically be a tie farming contest there. and then they hope to have the pressure on the map. As we know, Wukong is not really that good of a jungler early. He's 1 to 6 ganks, so that would all play in Fnatic's favor. But the lane swap just messed it all up.
The amount of knockups that IG had in their favor was particularly good. We got a second replay that we do want to show you guys. Let's pull that replay up onto your screen. This was a little later in the game, sitting closer to the 12-minute mark. Now, this was a team fight in this bottom lane. It is on your screen. Talk me through it, Crepo.
Basically, this is indicative of like what would happen if this game would have played out the way Fnatic wanted it. Bot lane's a little bit ahead, even after the lane swap. Kassadin comes down with a teleport, and they close the gap on the enemy so much quicker. If we run this replay right now, we're gonna see that Kassadin teleports down, and they just jump in, double man Tibbers, immediately like Cleanse or Mikhail's coming out Thresh, but Thresh he blows up. They still chase the Vayne if they follow them around, because we have to manually control this, and this is very new for me. We follow them around, and they keep going, but they get a little bit too deep, and this is where Pekka jumps in, and now this is where IG's like strength comes in. Froggen?
Yeah. So right now, as we are going to see is, Zitai, he finished his static shift really early because of the first blood he got onto X-Pekka. So what's going on here is, Illusion is gonna jump in, knock up Lucian, and Zitai is gonna jump on top of him. And he's basically gonna clean up everything from the rest of this fight. Pekka, he zoomed, he doesn't really have much to do. He almost gets a kill onto Kid. But Zitai, he's just cleaning up everything in this fight. And that's where the Chinese aggression comes in. It's like, they basically just want Yasuo to get into all of them and basically just clean up everything because he's that strong with his static shift.
And they make the switch so easily. We see it in later fights as well. Baron dancing around. It's where PDD on Shyvana, he still hides in a brush and he just waits for his moment. They have patience because they could have turned this earlier and failed, but they just waited until the last moment. Wukong goes in, gets the knock-up, and it's very indicative of how well synergized IG is playing. They wait for the right moment, then they unleash their wombo combo, and that's how they win games.
Well, you have to give credit to Fnatic. They did stall the game out. By the 12-minute mark, we were looking at it and thinking, how on earth can Fnatic pull themselves back? They did drag the game out to around about the 35-40 minute mark. They had a couple of good picks. They were able to find some kills, but you know, that early game really, really struggled for them. Now, Fnatic, they are going to drop down to the lower bracket in this double elim. IG are going to be facing the winner of KTB versus Millennium. What can the other teams in the group take away from this? Watching both of these teams, what do we think IG did very well? What do we think Fnatic maybe struggled with?
I think what you can take away from IG's champion selection is they bank everything on actually getting ahead. If they got behind with this comp, absolutely no wave clear. Only the wind wall to maybe protect the towers. Besides that, there's no wave clear at all. So bank everything on actually getting ahead.
Oh, it worked out for them. Final thoughts, Crepo?
Ties into the point I was going to make, confidence. This is different than your average like LCS match. You're in front of a giant like studio audience here, like there's thousands of people watching you, crowd momentum, which means if you play with confidence and you just follow those calls, whether they're good or bad, but you just go all in, and once they start working out, you get so much momentum and the crowd will get behind you that it matters a lot here. So playing without hesitation is probably your biggest feature to winning a match here.
Yeah, and IG definitely played without hesitation. They picked so many fights instantly. I believe we do have PDD sitting on stage ready for an interview. Congratulations to IG once again. Shocks, let's see what he has to say.